Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Studio Session. I'm Katherine.
And I'm Lucas.
And we are very excited to bring you this new podcast where we're going to be doing music reviews, kind of just an update on what's going on with different albums, artists, and songs. So you may know Lucas from his previous podcast called Chopping It Up.
Yep, we're still running Chopping It Up, and I'm excited to add this podcast to the feed of the Lions Roar.
All right, so we are going to start this podcast by just kind of introducing a little bit about us. You may know that the Spotify and Apple Music Wrapped have just recently came out, so we're kind of going to be doing a little overview of our top artists and genres, just so you can kind of get to know us a little better about the kind of music that we prefer when it comes to our rankings. So I actually am a little bit of a unique situation. I was a Spotify user up until about June, and then I switched to Apple Music for the rest of the year. So I have kind of two Wrappeds, but for my Apple Music Wrapped, my top artist was Taylor Swift, which is not shocking. I listened to a lot of pop music, and I had about like 20,000 music minutes in total between the two platforms. With my top genres being pop, alternative, pop rock, and then R&B and soul, which I'm a little surprised got on there. But that's just kind of the music that I like to listen to.
My top, I'm exclusively Apple Music this year, although I've been Spotify in the past. My top album is Untitled Unmastered, followed by Currents, which is what we'll be reviewing today. My top artists, top three, Kendrick, Mac Miller, and Tame Impala. And my genres that it listed were hip-hop, alternative, pop, jazz, and R&B.
So besides Taylor Swift, I have some other pop artists like Olivia Rodrigo on my list, as well as a couple more alternative like Tame Impala. Hozier, I also snuck on my list. We have Sabrina Carpenter, Lana Del Rey, The Weeknd, kind of just a lot of pop, a little bit of alternative, a little bit of indie. Yeah, so that's kind of our overviews of our music taste. I would just like to preface that I have like very limited professional music knowledge. I don't know a lot of the actual terms, so my description of a lot of songs is going to be very casual, but I still want to explain my opinions. I just don't know a lot of the like technical music terms. All right, so without further ado, let's get into our main segment. All right, so the main segment of this podcast is going to be an album review. We wanted to do kind of themes for these albums. So when you're listening to this, it'll be the 1st of December, probably. And December is going to be our alternative month where we're going to listen to albums that fall pretty much under the genre of alternative. So we are starting with an album that we both love. It is Currents by Tame Impala. This album was released in 2015, and the genre is alternative / rock with some pop and almost disco aspects, I would say. I absolutely love the cover art on this album. It is just so mesmerizing. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely iconic. I remember the first time I listened to this album, I had seen the cover so many times, and when I finally got to listening to this album, I was like, oh, okay, that's the I've seen that one before. So yeah, it's definitely up there in terms of some of the best album covers in recent memory.
I definitely agree. All right, so I think the song that first kind of introduced me to Tame Impala was The Less I Know, The Better. I had heard it on different social media platforms. I just heard it a lot, like clips of it, and I was like, wow, this is a really great song. And I definitely think that The Less I Know, The Better is one of the strongest songs on the album. When it comes to actually ranking all the songs, I did give it one of my highest rankings. I gave it a 9 out of 10. So that one, as well as Reality in Motion, are my two favorites on this album. The Less I Know, The Better, despite being the most popular, I think is one of the most popular for a reason. It's just so good. The lyrics are almost kind of like funny and blunt, but also kind of have like a deeper meaning. And it kind of just gives me very like summer vibes, just really positive. And then Reality in Motion is just such a vibey song. It has a great tune. I just love it so much. It's definitely a favorite of mine. So those were probably my top two favorites. I gave them both a 9 out of 10. I gave Let It Happen and New Person, Same Old Mistakes about an 8.5 out of 10. Those were probably tied for third place for me.
So for me, I think my favorite song on this album is Yes, I'm Changing. Based on the message it gives, it's pretty much tracking like the change of a person, and I really like the part. My favorite part on the whole album is it's almost like going into the city and you can hear like the taxis and the cars beeping. That symbolization of change is my favorite part of the album, and it's why Yes, I'm Changing is my favorite song on this album. I also really like Let It Happen, Reality Emotion, and Disciples. They're all great songs, and I just love the way they sound, and they're just so pleasing from an oral perspective.
Those are some great picks. So I actually gave Disciples my superlative for underrated. I think it is one of the most underrated songs in the album. It is rather short. It clocks in at under 2 minutes, which is pretty short, but I don't mind that it's so short. I think a lot of the times for shorter songs, they don't feel really like complete to me, but I think this one did. So despite being under 2 minutes, it just felt really complete, and I just really like this one. I would definitely recommend giving it a listen.
For my most underrated song, I selected Eventually. That's kind of a middle of the pack song on this album if you were to rank them, but this album is just so good. It's still a great song. And like I said, it's very similar to Yes, I'm Changing in the way I just could listen to it on end, and it's just so beautifully constructed. Tame Impala is an incredible producer, and this song is just a testament to that.
All right, so the next superlative that I gave was the song that I think best almost represents the cover, and I gave that one to The Moment. I don't know what it is about it. I just feel like the way that the cover almost shows like a ball rolling, and I feel like The Moment, where it kind of has echoes of like it's getting closer, that's what it does in the song. It echoes like it's getting closer, and just something about that I felt really like captured, almost like getting the ball rolling, just like what is displayed on the cover. And so I think that kind of really represents the cover.
For the song that I think best represents the cover, I selected Nangs because it's pretty short and it's not really a singing song. It's kind of more just like a whoa, like, all right, what's going on here? I look at the cover as like a pendulum swinging in the balance, and just the waves on the cover. I kind of looked at the song, I'm like, okay, what is a Nangs? And I didn't know, and I think that's a great testament to this album because I don't really know what it is, but it's just such a great album when constructed together. So I think based on Nangs and how the song goes, I think that's the song that best represents the cover.
All right, the next superlative I have is the song that just makes me want to get up and dance the most, and I gave this one to Let It Happen. This is a rather long song that clocks in at almost 8 minutes, but yet I didn't think it was too long because I think there were so many just amazing aspects. There are some great lyrics as well as some beautiful instrumental pieces that just want to make me get up and dance. So I definitely gave this song the most danceable on the album.
For my most danceable, I'd like to select Reality Emotion. I just feel like it's you can get up, it's one of those songs where it's not a hype song, but it gets you moving, it gets you active. You're like, okay, this is a song I like to dance to.
All right, and then the last superlative I have here is my least favorite on the album. And while I hate to give this to any, I did give it to Gossip. Gossip is a very short song that comes in at under 1 minute. No lyrics, just I felt like there wasn't a lot to rate it on, which unfortunately did make it sink to the bottom of my ranking. But still respectable. I'm also not the biggest fan of Nangs, which I know Lucas would very much disagree with me on. Kind of the same thing because it is so short, clocking in at under 2 minutes. I just felt like there wasn't a lot to like soak in. I'm definitely more for the songs that just feel more complete to me, but again, definitely not bad pieces, just I preferred others.
For my worst song, I also picked Gossip. Like Katherine said, very short. It's not up to par with the rest of the songs. I would say there's not a bad song on this album, but I actually think Gossip is a bad song. It's just not long enough. There's not enough going on. Compared to my second worst song is Past Life, and I still feel like there's more going on in that song than Gossip.
Yeah, Past Life I think was definitely one of my lower ones as well. There was a lot of talking in it, which does sound cool, but I wish there was more of like a bridge per se, just something to kind of tie it all together more. All right, so as a whole, I give this album a solid 8.5 out of 10. There are so many gems, especially a lot of underrated songs that people might not know a lot about. There's so many unique tunes, songs that are just such great vibes, and I think that there's something for a lot of different people on this album, especially if you're into almost like pop or more alternative music, but you want something new. I think that Currents is an amazing album.
I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I feel like the album itself as a collection is better than its collective parts as a whole. I only had one dime, I had one 10 out of 10, and I had more nickels. I had two 5 out of 10s, which would bring it down. If you averaged out my ratings, it would probably be closer to 8 than 9. But I just feel like when you put all the tracks together, it tells almost like a story, and everything just goes together so good. I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10.
Definitely an amazing album and a great one to start off this podcast with. All right, so the next segment is something that I'd like to call Playlist Essentials. This is where me and Lucas will both be choosing 5 songs that we think fit a certain event or just songs that we think you need on your playlist for a specific event. So this could be a specific holiday coming up, a specific moment, just something where we think 5 songs that would represent some part of life. But because this is the first episode, we decided that we wanted to start with the 5 songs that we would want on any playlist. These are probably our top 5 songs of all time. So this was really hard for me to rank. I have so many songs that I absolutely love, but starting with my number 5, I actually have this song that came up on the top of my Spotify Wrapped, meaning it's the song I listen to most from at least January to June of this year, and that is the song Easy Lover by Philip Bailey and Phil Collins. This song is just such a jam. I absolutely love it. It's super upbeat. I remember hearing it probably a little too late, to be honest. This song came out, I think, in like the 80s, but I first listened to it probably a couple years ago, and I remember hearing it on the radio, and I was just like, wow, this is such a fun song. I absolutely love it. So I started just listening to it more and more, and that was clearly evident by how much I listened to it in the first couple months of the year, but it is just such a fun song. I absolutely love it.
My 5th song on my list, and believe me, it was very tough to cut this list. I went through every song that I had downloaded on Apple Music, and I came up with 23 songs that I thought could fit into these 5 slots, could be interchangeable. But in the end, I said it with these 5. My 5th best is Just the Way You Are by Bruno Mars. I absolutely love this song. It's just so positive and upbeat, and I think it's just the pinnacle of Bruno, if we're being honest.
All right, so for the number 4, we had to have a Taylor Swift song on this list. Taylor Swift is my favorite artist. I think she is just so talented, an amazing songwriter, amazing singer. So it's no surprise that one of her songs did make my top 5 songs of all time. And I gave this position to my favorite Taylor Swift song, which is Untouchable. This is on her Fearless album, and I strongly believe that it is her most underrated song as well. I feel like not a lot of people know about it, not a lot of people appreciate it. It's definitely one of her least popular on Fearless, but I just don't know why. This song is absolutely amazing, and something I think is so amazing is that it is actually a cover of a different song. I cannot recall the artist that she covered, but originally the song Untouchable was a very like rock heavy song, but the way she did it, she made it much softer, much more elegant, and she actually changed it so much and gave it kind of its own bridge that the original writers actually gave her writing credits, which I think is just such a power move. She was able to change it so much and make it her own, while still keeping a lot of the original lyrics. The song is just so amazing. It puts me in such a good mood every time. It's also nostalgic. I grew up listening to the Fearless album, especially hearing it re-recorded now. I just absolutely love it. So Untouchable by Taylor Swift is my 4th favorite song.
All right, number 4 on my list. It's a pretty weird song. The music video is weird, but that's why I love it. It's Telegraph Ave, parentheses, Oakland by Lloyd by Childish Gambino. This song is maybe the peak of just weird. Like, it's on the album Because the Internet by Childish Gambino, which is notoriously a pretty weird album. And it just tells the story. It's a song within a song. As you can see in the parentheses, it's Oakland by Lloyd. Childish Gambino, who is one of the most creative artists in the game today. Hopefully he comes out with some new work soon. And he's just a very creative character. Obviously, he has a show to Atlanta. He was on another show, I think it was called Community. I'm blanking on that one. But this song is just incredible based on the fact it's another song in this song. And in the music video, it goes deeper into this, showing Childish Gambino and his lover just having this song on, and then at the end, he turns into an alien. So it's a really weird song, but it's just so good, and I love it, and that is my number 4 song all time.
Wow, listening to that description makes me very, very curious about that song. I've not heard it, but now I will definitely be listening to it. All right, my number 3 spot is going to go to Viva La Vida by Coldplay. As you can see, this list is very all over the place, but I adore this song, and I think this was probably my number 1 song for a while. I know a lot of my friends and family would probably think of this as my favorite song because I talk about it a lot. I absolutely adore this song. Definitely a popular one, but for good reason. I just love this song so much. I think that it's almost a retelling of the French Revolution, and I'm a big history buff. History is my favorite subject. I love learning about it. So kind of having this retelling of the death of the King Louis, to be exact, is just so crazy that they were able to kind of capture that in a song that I just feel like there's so many messages in this song. The tune is so good. I could listen to this song all day. Something about it, it makes me want to like levitate. So good. Love Viva La Vida.
I think that's a great pick. That's the song you'd see on like the Indomitable Human Spirit videos on YouTube. Let's say you're in a rut, you're trying to get back up, you're feeling down, that song is maybe the best for that. My 3rd song is Purple Rain by Prince. This song, it's pretty long. It's like 8 minutes long. It's just incredible. The lyrics are incredible. And then once you get past Prince singing, just the guitar and the music after that is just so stellar. And it's almost like an out-of-this-world experience. I personally listen to music with 1 AirPod in so I can hear my surroundings. But if you ever listen to that song with 2 AirPods in, it feels like you're like drifting away. So I have that as my 3rd best song.
All right. For my 2nd favorite song, I have Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. This song is so good. The vocals are amazing. It's so good. I remember when I first heard this song, I was like, what is this? And I knew it would be one of my favorites. It's so good. It's like words cannot describe how much I love this song. Just everything about it is beautiful. The lyrics, the singing, everything, 10 out of 10. Amazing.
My 2nd song is Breathe Deeper by Tame Impala, featuring Lil Yachty. The remix of this song, it's very good. And the significance of the song is greater than you might realize. This song by itself is obviously very good, but throwing Lil Yachty on it, which this did inspire him, in a way it feels, to create his last album, Let's Start Here, which, if you know Lil Yachty, he's more of a rapper, but this past album he released was actually synonymous with some of Tame Impala's works. It was an alternative, groovy album, and a couple songs on that album are playlist worthy. This song is like an introduction to that. The way that he fits onto the already existing Tame Impala song is just beautiful. It tells a story and it's upbeat. It's a great track, and it is my 2nd track all time.
All right, so this brings me to my favorite song of all time. And while I think a lot of the songs on this list could be interchangeable for my favorite song of all time, when I had to rank the songs, the one that came out on top for me, at least for right now, is For Emma by Bon Iver. And I actually mentioned this song on the Chopping It Up podcast the other day when I was asked if I could listen to one song for the rest of my life, what would I pick? And I picked this one. This is on the album For Emma Forever Ago by Bon Iver, and it is just the most beautiful song. It's rather short, and there's also a pretty big instrumental portion, which as you can probably tell by the Currents ranking, I'm not always the biggest fan of, but something about this song, it is just so beautiful. One of my favorite lines is, for all your lies, you're still very lovable, which I just think is like gut-wrenching. Like he sings about how like people can wrong you so many times and yet you can still just find the beauty in them. Oh my God, it is so sad. It's just the most beautiful song ever. I could listen to it all day. I've listened to it when I'm happy, when I'm sad. I feel like with every emotion, I can just find some excuse to listen to this song. And that is just what makes it so amazing. I just love it so much. And that's definitely, as of right now, my favorite song of all time.
I have an honorable mention before you get to mine. Like I said, I had to cut 18 songs to make this list. My honorable mention, the 6th place, is Love's in Need of Love Today by Stevie Wonder. If you know me, you know I've liked Stevie Wonder for a long time. Shout out Mom and Dad. Just a banger. But number 1, I have a song that is not even released. It's called Prayer by Kendrick Lamar. It's a very thoughtful track, and it tells 3 stories. The first story, the first verse, is about Michael Jackson and about his life and his separation with his father and growing up into childhood stardom. The second verse is about Martin Luther King Jr., and it also tells his story, but it's almost speaking through the eyes of the I Have a Dream speech, which is an incredible twist. And the third song is speaking through Kendrick himself. And the whole point of the album is Kendrick is voicing his concerns because he feels that now in today's climate, people will bring up the negatives about those people. He mentions Michael Jackson. We all obviously know what happened with him and the children, but Martin Luther King Jr., he mentions infidelity and an affair he had, and just speaking from the eyes of the I Have a Dream speech, the I Have a Dream speech is almost scared that it will be buried in time because of these new allegations and proven true things about MLK. And then the third verse, it's Kendrick asking the critics, he's acting like they're huddling up, they're bringing down people based on their bad things and maybe forgetting some of the good things. In the first verse, he says, the first 3 letters of my alphabet, my name, I made you laugh, I made you cry, I made you sing. And that represents the ABC song by the Jackson 5. And he's worried that the Jackson 5 and all that work and all the ABC is one of the most popular songs of all time. And Michael Jackson, Thriller, the greatest album of all time, and The Run It Had, Beat It, Thriller, all those songs will be forgotten due to what Michael Jackson ultimately did. And almost points to he didn't have a childhood. He just went right into the industry and how it affected him. And it's just a beautiful song. Obviously, it's unreleased. You can't find it on, Apple Music. Spotify might have it. Some people might have pirated it, leaked it, whatever. I listened to it on SoundCloud. It is on YouTube, I know for a fact. It's an incredible song, 5 minutes long, just one of Kendrick's greatest storytelling songs, and I love it, and that is what I believe is the best song of all time.
Oh, there are just so many great songs that the artists just have not released. So those are our top 5 songs of all time. All right, so for Studio Sessions' final segment, we're just going to be kind of recapping on what to expect on the next podcast. Our next album review, following with the alternative theme and also kind of following with my top song spot, is going to be the album For Emma Forever Ago by Bon Iver. Very excited for this one. We are also going to be talking about any new music releases coming out this week. Unfortunately, Lucas, this is not a very good week for music.
It's a pretty dull week. Really, I looked at the releases and there's actually nothing coming out. One of the worst weeks of the year. But it's probably because they want us to prepare for Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2 coming out December 8th.
Very, very excited for that. I'm so excited to start this podcast. So many exciting things to come, and definitely keep an eye out for new episodes. Also, make sure to keep following Chopping It Up with Lucas, amazing podcast. And yeah, we will see you next time on Studio Session. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.